Hello and welcome to FGC Philosophy. My name is Tavian the Philosopher Napier, and this is where we level up inside and outside the virtual arena. We do that by talking about topics that I find important and sometimes interesting. Today's topic, we got a fellow member of the FGC, but before we get into that topic, I got some updates for you. So let's jump right into them. So this is primarily going to be esports updates. As many of you know by now, I did get accepted in the salary position at Western. So I'm really excited to be working back at the university again and not as stressed about money. I started that officially on Monday, the 24th of October. So I am starting that out and it's great. Not much has changed, honestly. There's a little bit of a hierarchy structure, but outside of that, my duties are basically the same. It's just working a little bit more consistently and making more money and not being stressed about money. So but speaking of money, I will say, as someone who has, during this pandemic, struggled financially, like I've made things work. We've been very lucky to not have worse financial issues, but it is so crazy how much of a burden that money can put on, at least me. It's always been an issue for me. It's been a very sensitive topic to talk about, just from family to living on my own to, spending a little bit of time being homeless. It's just been a topic that's hard for me to separate my self-worth from, right? And I had never really practiced dealing with that struggle plus being a parent and a husband. That all happened during this pandemic. So it was like a whole bunch of stuff just compounded, and I worked through it, but it was so hard. And now it just seems so much easier to motivate myself to do stuff. It's crazy how much of a difference when you alleviate part of your stress, whether it be money for me, or it could be cleaning up your room, or dealing with a bad, unhealthy relationship. Relieving that stress can just give you so much more mental energy to focus on other stuff. It's crazy. I already knew that in practice or in theory, but it's just, this is a whole new can of worms I had never dealt with. Pandemic plus parenting plus being a husband plus having to start my business back up in the middle of all that. Pretty crazy. But luckily to say, I'm happier now, dealing with a lot less mental fatigue and that kind of stuff. Is easier to go to bed, and that's great. And I will say there's one thing that has been stressing me out that I didn't really know how to work out, and the situation kind of worked itself out in a way, but I had to step down from my duties at Albion College. I worked as a Rocket League coach, and I also helped with some production and coaching fighting games and stuff like that, and had some other things I was going to help on the side with more mental and communication coaching. But that was taking up a lot of my time. It's an hour drive to and from, plus, I work about 4-hour shifts, usually late at night, so I'm missing a lot of my family time, or working at Western. So that had been stressing me out because I loved working with those students. I really, really did. There was one student that graduated, or there's 2 students that graduated last year, but I had one that stayed with me, and we had 3 new grade students that were really, really awesome. And I felt obligated to want to keep working with them at least until the end of the semester, but it didn't pan out that way. I got to hang out with them one last time. I'm going to be stopping by to drop off some of my stuff that I kept at home. But yeah, that had been stressing me out, and it sort of just worked itself out. And now I'm done with my duties at Albion. I'm still going to be talking to the people. The director is someone that I respect and hope for the best for. So of course I'm going to be helping them out. Hopefully, they'll come to the arena and check it out, of course, because that would be really awesome. I love showing people the arena. It's like a point of pride for me. I put a lot of effort over the years since 2018 into that arena and into the program. So it's really cool that even though I stepped down from my duties, my current job still connects me with them, and also, the internet connects me with them, and also this podcast. Apparently, some of the students at different colleges that or high schools that I've worked at, listen to this. So if you are listening to this, you're one of those students. I appreciate you. It's weird to me. I didn't know that until one of my most recent episodes about, I got my dream job back. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. But nonetheless, let's move on to the next topic. The next big thing I want to talk about, something that I'm incredibly nervous about and excited about, is this event, this individual performance and optimization keynote presentation by Edward Cleland. It is an event that we are holding. It is on Friday, November 11th at the arena. I'll put a link in the description if you guys are local and you want to check it out. But his name is Edward Cleland. I think I talked about this at least once. I may not have because it wasn't official, but everything's official now. The marketing has started. The registration is up. It is a free event. And this guy is a health and wellness practitioner, right? He works with the top teams in the nation, maybe the world. I don't know if he only works with American teams, but he works with EG, or Evil Geniuses, 100 Thieves, NRG, I believe Rogue and Complexity and a few other teams as well. So he's worked with a lot of the top level players, like the best of the best in esports. And he's also an alumnus. He graduated from Western years ago, and now he wants to come back. He's doing his pro bono. I've had several conversations with him, which I wish I had recorded, because there were some great conversations that could have been on this podcast. And I kick myself a little bit, but whatever. I'll have some live content, and if I can, I'm going to take some of that conversation from the keynote and put it here, because it's actually not just a keynote. It's going to be the keynote followed by me having sort of a podcast version of a conversation live with him, like a panel discussion, but just me and him, then followed by some Q&A. And we should be streaming the whole entire thing live on twitch.tv/the WMU Esports. But then I'm going to try to take some of that and I'll put it on this podcast sometime if I get everything edited. It might be a while. Obviously, the event is in November on the 11th. But it might take a little longer to get everything edited and whatnot. But I'm really excited about it, but also it's the biggest event I've ever done in terms of non-tournament stuff. So I'm a little bit nervous. Like, the summer camps were probably the biggest thing I was nervous for before this, outside of like hosting tournaments. But now I feel way more comfortable with tournaments. I have a process for production and planning and all that kind of stuff. We know how to do it. My staff knows how to do it. I feel really comfortable with that. You know, there's still, of course, nerves and excitement, but this is something out of my comfort zone. Like, I'm going to be walking on stage, hopefully to a packed arena, and introducing the guest in the event, and then having a conversation with him, trying to hold my own and mediating that conversation and helping with the Q&A if need be. So it's a big step forward for me in terms of my career and my achievements. It's something that, in a way, I hadn't really thought about this, but it's one of my goals I had wanted to do. I wanted to be a public speaker, and this isn't my event, right? So it's not like I'm the highlight of the event, but I am a key component in that event. So I feel nervous but excited. Like, I know I can rise to the occasion, so I'm thinking about it in my head. I'm trying to get everything written down so I can translate it to the student staff and everything. But yeah, so that's the biggest thing that's coming up that I'm incredibly excited for. Again, links in the description down below. It is a free event, but we would love if you RSVP just so that we can get a head count in case we get some food sponsors and stuff like that. Would be a huge help. Thank you guys so much in advance for that, and I look forward to seeing you at that event. All right, so the next thing is I'll do Rocket League updates. I want to get the updates from the other teams, but I coach and I'm responsible for the Rocket League team specifically, and I'm pretty proud of these guys. So we are in the MAC League, the MAC, it's a Midwestern American Conference, something like that. It's the same league that, Midwestern football teams play in and such. Same league that WMU plays in, and other colleges like Akron and such. We are in the playoffs. We did our 7 weeks of round robin, and we ranked 3rd place. The only teams that ranked higher than us are Ball State and Akron, and mainly no shade to these teams, but they got pros on their teams. They got some people who are actually, either were or are in RLCS, I believe, and are also in CRL right now, which, that's a collegiate Rocket League, so I wouldn't really count that one as a pro series. But these guys are killers. They've been the best of the best in the league for a while. So I'm really proud of our team. I think we can get top 4. The first school we will be playing is NEU. I think that's Northeastern University, something like that. And then after that, if we win, we'll probably play Ball State, if I look at the bracket correctly. I'm pretty sure they're going to be the ones that win. And then, of course, on the other side of the bracket, we have Akron. So we managed to avoid Akron. Akron and Ball State were the 2 colleges that beat us. And so we're going to have to be facing them. And I think it's a single elimination tournament. So we got our first game, play against NEU, then after that probably Ball State, see how we do. It's going to be a slugfest, but if we can get through that one, then we probably will be playing Akron after that. So I'm really excited to see that. Next game is going to be on this Wednesday. We'll be streaming that at 8 p.m. We stream every 8 p.m., but this is going to be the last Wednesday stream until the league, which I believe that next Saturday is going to be the finals and the semifinals, then the finals. So stay tuned for that, for updates. I'll try to update you guys on here, but also on our Twitter at WMU Esports. That's where we're going to post all of our actual WMU updates, so you don't have to follow me specifically. You can just follow the Western Esports account. So that's most of the updates. Outside of that, it's just me learning the job and trying to get better at it, working on this podcast and trying to get more consistent. But in terms of updates, that's all we have for right now. But let's jump into what I'm listening to. Before things got a little too crazy for me, I had a segment where I talked about the audiobooks that I'm listening to. I love audiobooks, in case you guys don't know that, in case you're new to this show. I've had Audible for like 10 years now. I don't think I've ever let the account lapse unless I was like just super broke. And I've been using it for a long time. I probably have close to 100 books, most of those being self-development. But during this pandemic, I've been sort of just trying to shut my brain off a little bit. I still listen to books like The Inner Game of Tennis. I'm re-listening to that one. I've talked about that in a prior episode, and I hope to go into more in-depth with that in the future with Gator Melon. I want to have him back on the show and talk about that. But what I've been listening to right now, it's a genre called lit RPG, like literary RPGs. It's almost like an isekai, if you know what that is, where it's like an RPG, like a dot hack. Imagine dot hack or Ready Player One. Those would be considered lit RPGs. And this one I'm listening to is called Overtaken Online. It's about this character who, by selling a lot of stuff, personal belongings, paid like $300,000 to go into this VR game that's like super realistic. He met some people. He got thrown into a area he shouldn't have been really early on, having to fight his way out of there, learning about the AI. The AI seems very, very advanced, and almost sentient. It's just really, I love that kind of stuff. Of course, there's leveling up and items and stuff like that. There's stats, status ailments. It's like very much an RPG, but written, and it's pretty much just, it's an audiobook, right? It is a talk instead of reading it. I stay pretty active in different ways, so it's nice to have something to kind of keep me company when I'm working on things that are a little bit more boring. And this has been what I've been listening to. There's like a 4-book compilation, right? I think you can buy the physical version. I had a friend named, I call him Chef, my friend online. He bought the physical copy. I think he's probably already done. I'm on book 2. It's pretty interesting. There's some gripes I have about it. I won't go into depth this episode. Maybe I'll do like a full breakdown of it once I finish it. But I will say it's not for everyone. The main character is definitely a guy from like the 80s sort of thing. Like there's some things that I think would be considered not super PC, the way he conducts himself. But I also believe this character, it's a believable way he conducts himself. Like it's relatable to younger versions of myself. Like who I am now, not relatable. But who I've been in the past, kind of relatable. I understand, sort of like Ready Player One was the same way. Like the way the character acts, he's like 17. He acted like a 17-year-old in an era where like I grew up, where society wasn't as evolved socially or intellectually. So I really appreciate the book. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm gonna do like a write-up of this book. I kind of want to get back into reviews. It's a side thing, so it's not a high priority for me, but just to get it out of my system to talk about it. So that said, if you're interested in audiobooks and you haven't started listening to audiobooks yourself, what I would recommend is going to tavynapier.com/audible. You will get a free trial. There's no cost to you, and I don't get anything out of it unless you wind up keeping it. And I think you have to keep it for at least 3 months. So I really don't care about the money. It's a good thing if I do get it, but I love Audible. It's like the one consistent affiliate that I utilize. It's something that you guys might enjoy, and there's no harm to you if you don't keep it, right? You try it out, you don't pay any money, you don't like it, you get rid of it. You do like it, you pay like what, $11 a month or something like that, and you get 1 free book a month, plus discounts on certain books that are exclusive to Audible. So it's a pretty good situation, in my opinion. It's really great. It's really, really great. I love it. I really recommend it. tavynapier.com/audible if you want a free trial. Now, on to the main topic. My guest's name was Exstacy. I think I met him originally on one of my streams when I was streaming on YouTube. I was streaming Cyberpunk and maybe DNF Duel. It might have been DNF Duel the first time he stopped by. I feel like I might have talked to him on Twitter. I don't remember where we originally touched bases, but we kind of just kept in contact. He kept stopping by my streams, even when I was streaming Cyberpunk on twitch.tv/philosopher, on youtube.com/philosopher. And we just kind of kept talking about stuff, and he had a few topics that he wanted to talk about, and I thought that was really interesting. And what I'll do is, if you wanted to skip to the conversation, to certain points in the conversation, timestamps will be listed below. But we talk about a variety of topics. We talked about how he got started into fighting games. I love this question. I love hearing about how people got into fighting games, why they still play it, what level they are at, competition, casual, commentator, career, like where are they at with fighting games? I love hearing about that kind of stuff. Then we delve into thoughts on Street Fighter 6. We talked about the beta. When we recorded this, the beta I think had just dropped or was about to drop. I didn't get into it, so I'm a little bummed about that one, but hey, it's whatever. I'm not gonna hold any grudge against Capcom or anything, But no, the next topic we talk about is why do people leave fighting games? This has been a consistent challenge for the FGC for a long time, for a lot of people who play fighting games. I've seen it a lot in my community and other FGCs. People stop playing fighting games, and there's a wide variety. There's no right answer, but specifically when it comes to games being too difficult, that's sort of the main theme of this particular topic, because there's a lot of reasons why people leave fighting games, but in regards to why do people leave fighting games when they hit a plateau or hit a wall, that's what we delve into more specifically. I also share my gripe with tier lists. If you know me, then you probably already have heard this, but I share my gripe with him about tier lists, and you get to hear his reaction to it. I won't go into it right now, but yes, I feel a certain type of way about how people interact with tier lists. Then I also talk about how Rocket League and fighting game players have this in common, a specific thing in common when it comes to what I've recognized in Rocket League in coaching and also in playing fighting games. So that's a pretty interesting topic. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one. And then the last thing that we talk about is Project L, his thoughts on it, and how I think it's going to affect the FGC, and sharing those thoughts with him. It was a really fun conversation. I'm going to have him on at some point again. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I love having more conversations with the FGC. So if you're interested, it doesn't matter if you're a big name person or just, new to the fighting games, reach out to me. If you have some interesting topics you'd like to talk about and I feel like we're a good fit, then we can have you on the show and talk about this stuff in more depth. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you enjoy the show. Tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you get into fighting games? Like where do you lie, competitive or fun? What kind of thing are you into for fighting games?
Ooh, that takes me back. I think my love for fighting games first started when I got a Game Boy. The first fighting game that I ever played was called, and it's gonna take a lot of people back. It's called Dragon Ball Z Supersonic Warriors. It was possibly the best Game Boy game for Dragon Ball, in my opinion. And I got so enamored with trying out different characters and the combos, especially my favorite was Cell and Vegeta in that game. And for what it was, just to be such a small game, it had like a good story too, so that also attracted me into it. But definitely being from that time, a lot of people don't know that was actually the first team Dragon Ball fighting game. Like everyone thinks that Dragon Ball Fighter is actually the first one. No, it was all the way back in Game Boy. It was Dragon Ball Supersonic Warriors. You could have 3 people or even 2, and you would just power up that one character if you wanted to have like a small team. But that was where it all started. In terms of like where I stand in terms of competitiveness or casual play, I'm more of like a competitive casual. If I'm with my friends or anything like that, I'm definitely gonna be like, hyping everybody up. I get hyped myself. Mm-hmm. That anxious feeling starts boiling up inside you when you like pull off some crazy combos, show a couple stuff you've been working on, and stuff like that. But I definitely consider myself a competitive casual.
Okay, and what fighting games are you into right now?
Right now it's Dragon Ball Fighters. I was on Guilty Gear Strive, but I kind of gave up too. And I say that because the thing about fighting games for me is you got to have a character that you really mesh with. If you don't have that, then you're kind of like lost and you're just playing characters. You don't have much of a drive to like learn how that character works. And I didn't really have one. The closest thing to it was Leo, but it just wasn't sticking for me that much. But yeah, Dragon Ball Fighters is definitely what I'm with right now, especially with rollback coming out.
Yeah. True. That's a good game to get into right now. For people who don't know, yes, rollback is coming to Dragon Ball Fighters, which is good. There's a lot of games that are getting rollback, actually. So that's good to see that older games are getting supported still. That's really awesome.
Yeah, there's Fighters. There's Rev 2 and Rev 1 got, Extra 2. Mm-hmm. They got confirmed. Cross Tag has it, Blast Blue Cross Tag. They even went as back as Plus R, Guilty Gear. And that's like way back then. Mm-hmm. I think with Rev 2 and Rev 1, that just leaves Grand Blue Fantasy, right?
yeah. Grand Blue Fantasy and Tekken.
Yeah.
I don't think Tekken's going to get it, though.
Yeah, I don't think Tekken is getting it either, at least not by what I've seen. I don't see any like signs or leaks that they're trying to implement it. But I think Tekken thrives more from its local tournament play. I think that's where they get most of their publicity instead of online.
Yeah, I would kind of agree to that. I hope that Tekken 8 is different. Like I hope. I mean, online is always going to be a thing. Offline is always going to be a thing, and I feel like there should be a healthy mixture of the two. Like if you can have good netcode, you should have good netcode. But that doesn't mean that the offline scene, the in-person scene should ever go away. Because I think Tekken's one of those games where like just overall the crowd is very hype. You have Tasty Steve, you have Eris as personality. You have the whole Detroit scene. I'm close to Detroit, so like they're all very, very loud and vocal. That should never really go away. But as someone like for me, a lot of fighting games at this point are more work than anything else. Like I coach fighting games for colleges and stuff like that. And I'm getting into Tekken because I have a student that plays Tekken. So I would love to see, good, consistent netcode so I can either watch him play online matches or we can play matches remotely from my house rather than driving an hour to go to one of the schools that I work for. So yeah, I hope they do that for selfish reasons. I hope they do.
Yeah, I'll say this though. The ones that do play Tekken, I salute all of them. That game, I tried it. I went to the command list and I saw a book of commands for one character. I was like, what is all this, dude? I was like, give me like five combos and I'm good. I'll figure some stuff out. But when I saw like there was a catalog for one character, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, this is actually a good segue to go into. I wasn't going to mention this before, but you just made me think about it. Do you know who Ernesto Lopez is?
I know the name, but I can't remember much about it.
Essentially, he's a YouTuber that covers a lot of fighting game stuff. So he'll cover some of the fighting game drama or conversations, a lot of the stuff happening in the Twitterverse. And someone specifically talked about Tekken 7 or Tekken, the series as a whole. I can't remember the exact sentiment, but the guy was saying that Tekken 7 is one of the hardest games in the world and like one of the hardest fighting games, and like was sort of being frustrated about how hard Tekken was as a game and why it's not going to succeed. And then some of the Tekken players got mad and that kind of stuff. And there's a part that I agree with, that Tekken is a very, very hard game. I don't think it's the hardest of all the fighting games personally. I think it's just one of the most overwhelming because you have so many options to go from. But I guess if you can delve a little bit more into like how hard do you think Tekken is versus other fighting games, and like where does that lie with you and deterring you from playing that game?
In terms of modern fighting games nowadays, where I put like the Dragon Ball Fighters, the Guilty Gear Strives, the Blast Blue Cross Tech. Now I'll say that is more modern now with the roguelike update. The what else? The DNF Duel. In terms of like games like that, Tekken is way more technical. It takes a lot more ambition to really want to stay with it. And I think I've heard that Tekken doesn't have the best training mode. I think that's what I've been hearing.
It's gotten better, for sure. They've added a lot more features to it, yeah.
Yeah. But in terms of that, I'd say it's hard. It's a lot harder to me. My problem with so I'm a Street Fighter fan, a major Street Fighter fan. I got shirts, I got a console skin for my PS4, but I don't have anymore. So you already know the first character I gravitated towards was Kuma. He was definitely the first one I gravitated towards. When I saw that you could do like way more than what was given to him in Street Fighter, I was like, okay, I got the bases of the Tatsu, I got the bases of the Shoryu. But then I go to these videos and these guys are doing like crazy wall combos and everything with the Kuma, and I'm like, okay, how do I do that? And then when I go to the video to see how to do that, I just see like a whole catalog again of what I was supposed to press with. I'm like, God dang, man, like this is too much. I think people are getting a lot more impatient too.
Yeah. With
how to like learn combos and learn like especially neutral and abilities and stuff like that. People are getting a lot more impatient. That's why Guilty Gear Strive and DNF Duel a little bit more flashy in terms of what you can do, especially Berserker and Ghostblade in DNF Duel and Swiftmaster. And I think people are just like, if you're gonna like give us all this stuff, make it a lot more like, if you're gonna give people a lot of information, make it easy to access and actually learn. Like but don't make it too much. It's a hard balance. It's like trying to like make it complex, but also make it easy and accessible without being frustrating.
Yeah, I would say, so I came from DOA actually. I played a lot of Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat when I was a kid, but one of the games that I played the most from like DOA 2 to DOA 4 was like that game. I spent a lot of time playing that game online with really good players. So I grinded that game for a good while until I finally like dropped it in 5, DWA 5 and 6. I still play it from time to time. But my point is that I played a lot of 3D fighters. I played a little bit of Soul Calibur here and there, and Tekken for me, it felt very different from DOA, but I was still used to the concept of how the game worked. It wasn't that much harder, and the way that most of the physics of the game worked were the same. You know, there's low crushes, high crushes, that sort of thing. The parry system was a little bit different, but same concept of being able to anticipate what the person's going to press. And also the biggest thing is that there's a bajillion different combos that your character can do, or strings that your character can do. So I, in some sense, was used to the concept of being able to do a bunch of strings, but I found that because I wasn't as interested in Tekken, it didn't feel as good. It felt more stiff than DOA to me. One of the things I realized is that the game is just overwhelming with how much stuff your character can do, and they don't really show you what is and isn't good. And even if you do, it's like, why do I still have all of these things? What are they for? So I don't think the game itself is hard, but I think they give you so much to work with that it to me, it feels like the game is overwhelming, and if you're not already a Tekken player and you don't have that legacy knowledge, it can be a lot to get into. But I think if people reduce, like what I did, I looked online, what are the best pokes, what are the best strings, and then what combos can I do? And that has gotten me fairly far from just using some of my other legacy knowledge from, like, you know, footsies and spacing, whiff punishing, that sort of thing that, you know, that goes to every single fighting game. It got a lot simpler in my head, and for me, learning Tekken is more for work, so I'm motivated financially to do it. But I still see, like, just that experience from my point of view, looking at it and being a nerd about fighting games. It's like, yeah, there's still so much. Like, when I'm teaching somebody new, it's like, don't look at the whole list because you're just going to overwhelm yourself. Like, let's look online on pre-existing information. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Other people have tutorials. We'll look at that, then we'll learn how to do those things and go from there. So yeah, I would agree that Tekken is a very hard game, but I think the biggest issue is that it's just too much information without really a good way to ease into it, because it's a little bit archaic with its tutorials and stuff like that.
True, and that's the thing. A lot of people are a lot of people that join fighting games are perfectionists. They want to learn the entire character, everything that they can do, have it all down pat, so they know, you know, I'm not going in here blind. But like, learning half of a character is like, what's the point?
Yeah, it feels weird. It really does.
Yeah.
It goes against my nature. It's like, I want to know what all the things do, but like, that's too much time. Like, I got a kid, I got 2 jobs. I do this podcast. It's like, nah, I can't do that. So like, for me personally, yeah, I used to be that way, and that's why I never played Tekken. Was that exact part of that was exactly why I didn't play. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to sit here and memorize all these things because there's too much. But then I'm also being told that I only need to use part of it. It just feels like I'm playing in like incomplete. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. For
like an incomplete game. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we talked about Street Fighter a little bit. We hinted to that, and you said you're a Street Fighter player, so I'm curious to know how you feel about Street Fighter 6.
Ooh, I am very, very, very excited for that one.
Yeah.
I think what I love the most about it is that they're bringing the MMO type of gameplay into a fighting game. Like, that's a bit unheard of to me, because like, create your own characters, learn from the actual characters of the original cast, and be able to go out. And the fact that the open world is a stage itself, like, you can go out, find somebody that's like walking around, and you can fight them right then and there. That's so cool. And I think another thing that was awesome is that I don't know if I saw a small clip of this, that you could play like the older Street Fighter games within that game. I think I saw that too as well. And in the big dome area that they showed, is like a big big
like
stadium
the
area
hub or whatever.
Yeah, there was some arcade machines, and I saw Street Fighter 2, and I think I saw Alpha 3 in there.
I can see that. Like the older ones, like the 2D ones.
Yeah, they were playing that, and then it showed on the big screen as well that you could have like in hub tournaments, and it shows on like the big screen as well. People could sit in the bleachers and watch the entire fight of that same arcade machine, which is very that's huge for me. The only part that I'm hoping for is that we get Third Strike in one of the old games.
Yeah, that would be sick.
But I think this is definitely a major step, especially with doing crossplay and rollback on the beta, which is a very massive step in the extremely good direction.
They confirmed rollback?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's confirmed rollback and crossplay for for just the beta too.
I didn't hear about the crossplay. I mean, I assumed about the crossplay, but it's good to hear that. I've like the last couple of weeks I haven't kept up with it, but I've seen like Vesper Arcade posting a lot of videos. So I applied for the beta. I'm hoping I get into it though. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. I would definitely love to run some matches with you, my dude, because
yeah,
I for one am very excited. I'm gonna have the best looking character when I get
who you gonna play?
I think who I'm gonna learn from is definitely gonna be Ryu in there.
Wait, are they doing like the open world thing as part of the beta, or is it just like the fighting?
I think so. I think they are gonna. No, it's gonna be one. It's gonna let us do the open world, and we're gonna have like limited access to it, or it's just gonna be the normal cast of the characters and get to pick, go online and play. I think it's definitely gonna be the latter though.
That would be cool. And I was going to say earlier, like, so one of my favorite genres growing up was the beat 'em up, like side-scrolling beat 'em up, Streets of Rage, Final Fight, Bad Dudes, River City Ransom, all that good stuff. And I don't think it's going to be day one, but my hope, my tinfoil hat hope, is that they add a co-op, like beat 'em up mode to the game, because it basically already have it. They showed a couple of scenes where it's basically 2D, so I'm hoping they add the co-op. Wait, what?
I do know that there's a Streets of Rage type mode. I don't know if it's going to be co-op though, because I definitely saw. I think it was a scene where the character was in a train station.
Subway, yeah,
and he was going through just beating up dudes with the normal move that you can use in a side-by-side actual fighting game. I was like, yo, they're putting everything in this game, and I love it.
Yeah, I hope they just make it co-op. I don't know. For me, it's just like growing up, Sega Genesis, regular Nintendo, Super Nintendo, that genre of game I grew up playing a lot of hours playing those types of games. So I would love for them to just stick in some co-op in there. That'd be great.
I'll be honest. The only part I'm afraid of was like, how are they going to top this? Like how it's so much being added. Open world, CAC, beat 'em up type style of a fighting. Side by side, you can learn from the masters. In-game tournaments, you can play the old emulated games. That's a lot to top, man.
Well, so here's my thought on that. Right, I've talked about this for a while, and I use the term the leagueification of games, League of Legends specifically. I think that you're going to see, I could be wrong, but I think you're going to see more fighting games going that route where, look at Overwatch, for example. Overwatch is doing this weird thing where it's doing Overwatch 2, but it's going to be free to play and also syncs with Overwatch 1. Like if you already bought Overwatch 1, you already have the characters and stuff like that. League of Legends has been updating itself. So League, where it is now, isn't the same thing as where it was like 10, 15 years ago. A lot of games are doing more of the online service or whatever it is, and Street Fighter V could never have been that game because it was too bare bones and they spent so much time catching up. And in my opinion, I love fighting games, but if you compare a fighting game to other fully fledged like games, it is incredibly lackluster with what they provide for $60. Whereas this game feels like you're getting your money's worth. Most other fighting games, unless you're competitive and you're playing to compete for tournaments and stuff like that, you're not getting your money's worth out of the game. So now they're actually doing more than the bare minimum. And I do agree that it's going to be hard to top that, but I think Street Fighter 6 could be that game where they can continue to update it to where, like, yeah, they could do Street Fighter 7, but like it's not very unheard of for a fighting game to go Street Fighter 6, Street Fighter 6 EX mode, Street Fighter 6 Black Belt Edition Hyper Fighter, right? So they can extend that even further than they've already done in the past, and that's already normalized for people who play other games outside of fighting games. So many genres do that. Look at Call of Duty Warzone, for example. They've been merging that with the different versions of Call of Duty that they have. So I think, I could be wrong, but just from following a lot of esports, that tends to be the trend that you see with a lot of these games. And they're definitely going esports.
That definitely could happen. I mean, look at Street Fighter Alpha 3, Street Fighter, Super Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 4, Ultra Street Fighter 4. So yeah, that's definitely a norm. Other side, So I can definitely see that. And
it's already cross-plat or cross-play. So the first one was too, but this time it's going to be on Xbox, I believe, as well. So they have a bigger audience that's not going to be gate-kept So I do think that it could go that route. But in terms of the competitive mode, right, the versus mode, what characters are you looking at?
I'll be honest. Everybody has their eyes on Ken. Everybody wants to know what is going on with the man Ken. Is he working for this place? Is he undercover? What happened with the family?
They gave a little bit of information on that one.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. So what I know so far, and this is funny, I'm on a podcast calling this out because everyone thought that like he lost his job and he got divorced and like he lost a kid. And I was like, no, I think he got screwed over and get kicked out of the company. And that's basically what happened. It's like someone framed him for a crime and now he's on the run. So he's away from his family to protect them, from what I understand. That's like part of the little blurb in his on the website or whatever. So yeah, he got framed for something. I'm guessing it's Shadowloo or whoever the new villain is of this new organization. So now I would imagine he's looking to see who screwed him over and try to get revenge. Maybe he's looking for like Ryu as well along the way to like gather some allies. So I feel like he's way different from every other character in terms of like the storyline. Like he just has the most dramatic change. I think he could be a key player in the overall story. Plus, I think he's one of the only few characters I haven't seen be a master in the like the single player mode that you see. I've seen Ryu, I've seen Dalsum, I've seen Blanca, I've seen Chun-Li, from the World Warriors at least. I don't think I've seen Zangief yet, but I would be very surprised if he wasn't one. And
I would be too.
That's everybody that I've seen so far that's been announced. But Ken, I haven't seen anything in terms of teaching from Ken. It's still possible, but maybe he's like an unlock later on in the storyline or something like that.
Yeah, but the one that I would say that I'm keeping my eye on is definitely Akuma, because I have not seen. I've tried finding videos, but I have not seen anything on him except a character design. I don't know where he is. I don't know what he's doing.
They might hold him for DLC again. I don't know. He's a fan favorite. There's no way he's not going to be in the game, but I don't know if he's going to be a day one character. Maybe. It'd be cool if they did.
I feel like if he's not any better than the Street Fighter V version, I feel like not a lot of people are going to... Well, yeah, they are. It's Akuma. They're going to buy him, even if he is... Yeah. It's Akuma. It don't matter.
He's too much of a moneymaker, in my opinion. Like, coming from a background of game development and like game sales, I mean, I would personally love that he would be in the game day one, but he's a moneymaker. And Capcom, like, even though I think they're going really good with this game. They're being very public about like how they're working on the game. They're way less tight-lipped and old Japanese game developer. They're really like modernizing how they interact with their community. But at the same time, it's a business. And Akuma's a moneymaker. Sagat is a moneymaker. I think M. Bison could be a moneymaker because they're probably going to introduce a new villain. I kind of hope they do. But I also hope they put Bison in there for other people. I hate Bison, but I like when they put characters in there that other people want. So my bias doesn't really matter with that kind of character. Or Vega, for example. I don't know. I don't think Vega's a moneymaker. I think they might put him in day one if they're going to put him in. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong with that one.
Yeah, I think Vega's definitely a character that should be default. Granted, he has a small following, which I was enamored by. But I think he definitely needs to stay at default. Now, in terms of characters I wish would come back, which I know probably won't, is two characters, and they're from Third Strike, Sean and Q.
They gotta put Sean in there, man. They got to.
Yeah.
Oh, they don't put Sean in there, I'm gonna be a little salty, I'll be honest. And Dudley.
There was three. Dudley, yeah. I completely forgot about Dudley. I think his last appearance was Street Fighter 4, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, his last appearance Street Fighter 4. But the thing that hints at it for me, at least for even Hugo to come back, is like if you remember in Street Fighter 5, I don't know if you didn't remember the character 12.
Yeah.
From Third Strike. There's a character called 11 in Street Fighter 5, where he does the same thing that happens if you pick the random question mark. He just switches into a character that out of random choice from the system. But seeing that, I'm like, okay, we may have a chance of like either Sean, Q, Dudley, Hugo. I don't even know if Poison's in there. Is she in there?
Well, the story takes place in Metro City, from what I understand. So I think she'd at least make appearance. I think there's gonna be a lot of Final Fight characters in this game, potentially. But
because I know Alex is confirmed.
Hugo's been in the background. I think I've seen Hugo in the background. I didn't know Alex was confirmed, but Yeah, I would not be surprised if we don't see some Metro City characters like Hugo, Abigail. I'm curious to see Hagar, because he's the only one that hasn't. He's the only Final Fighter that hasn't been in Street Fighter yet. He's been in a fighting game. He's been in Marvel, but he hasn't been in a Street Fighter yet. Guy, Lucia, and Cody have all been in the game. I think that's everybody.
Okay.
I don't think I'm
Guy, Cody, Poison, Yuko. Yeah, it's just Hagar.
Yeah.
I think Hugo got replaced by Abigail in Street Fighter 5.
Yeah.
So yeah, which I was really upset. I was really upset about. I was like, "Where Hugo at? I see Poison. Who is this dude?"
I had a friend that played Hugo that slapped me up in 5 or 4, so I was happy that he wasn't in it. But I also despise Abigail just as much. Oh my god! There's we do these online tournaments every Monday, and there's a guy named Blarlad. I think he's from California, and he plays V-Trigger 2 or V-Skill 2 Abigail, and he turns Street Fighter into a bullet hell. Guy's a menace. He's a menace. He pisses off the DR scene a lot because they enter into tournaments too. But yeah, so I would be very happy if Abigail is not in this game because he's a terror. I'd rather have Hugo back for sure.
Oh, most definitely.
I'm looking forward to Jamie, though. I will say I'm going to play Ken. I'm going to mess with Ken because he's been my main until Street Fighter 5, where I just couldn't get into him. But Jamie, I'm a sucker for drunken boxing. And the character just looks sick. And he has like the Super Saiyan, like, hair goes down sort of thing.
Yeah.
I got to play the character. Yeah, he looks fun. He looked kind of like I played Yun and Yang in 5 or 4 as well.
Yeah, that's who he reminds me of. I was like, okay, is this like a cousin of Yun Yang? Like,
I don't think it's confirmed, but I'm pretty sure he has ties to them somehow. Like maybe he was taught by Gin or they're a student of Gin or something like that, because he uses a similar style, but he also like integrates his drunk boxing, and he has Rekkas, so people are thinking that he's related to them somehow.
Speaking of that, I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about the parry system that's come back?
I don't know. I tend to not do very well with the parry system, but I like the parry system. So it would kind of be a good chance for me to try to get better at it. I do feel like that's one of those skills that is going to be gatekeepy in terms of higher level gameplay, but I don't think it's necessary for lower level gameplay. But it allows, if we're talking about competitive like esports type of environment, I think it's good because it's going to create a lot more, Evo Moment 23 or whatever. It's going to cause a lot more of those situations where, like, okay, the parries, every character has access to the parry now. So there's this equal footing of, I know what you're going to do and I'm going to parry it and take this huge risk. So I think it's going to be exciting from like a commentary tournament organizer point of view, but I think it's going to be one of those things that's very frustrating and will gatekeep certain players from getting to that upper echelon of skill.
True,
what about you?
True. I personally am extremely happy that it's coming back because, Third Strike being my favorite Street Fighter, all I was like, the only character that I played in Street Fighter 5 was Ryu, only because he had that parry as his V skill, and I think that kind of made like a good home for me in terms of the game. I think that's the only thing that kept me tied to it, despite its abysmal netcode. But yeah, I think the fact that it's back is very good. Now, what I don't like is I saw there's like a frame 1 parry, which is like very, very, very fast. So like people are like, I've seen videos, people are doing it on wake up, like as soon as they stand up, even if it's if they're hit with a meaty. Like say you had Ken try to hit Ryu with a meaty, he just got a hard knockdown, right?
Yeah.
As soon as Ryu gets up, even if Ken's foot is like inside his body, he can still parry it on wake up. And I was like, oh.
Do you know what the wide the active frames are of the parry?
It's as soon as they move.
No, but I mean like the window. How is it, like 10 frames long, 2 frames long? Do we know that yet?
No, I do not know that yet. I need to do some more research on that. But from what I saw, it was a Maximilian do video. He was watching. I think it wasn't a developer fight. At least I don't think so. But I think it was the character that. No, it's not the character you want to play. It's the new girl, the black girl with the long ponytails.
I think it is.
I think that's her name. It was her versus a Ryu, and she did a meaty, and her leg was already fully extended with active frames on Ryu's body while he was getting up. And as soon as he got up, the parry just happened right there. I was like, whoa, So like if that doesn't get changed, that takes out like the whole dangers of worrying about, meaty hits on wake up. Because if the parry is so quick, then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing I'm trying to think about, because in Third Strike I think it was a 2-frame startup, and it had a 5-frame window. But like 5 frames isn't that wide, so I'm assuming if they're using like similar to Counter-Strike or Third Strike logic, then it's going to be about 5 frames, maybe 3 to 7 frames, 7 being on the super high end. There's still going to be skill required at the lower level. Like I don't think you're going to have wake up parries. It might have been bots that you were watching, because there's been a lot of bot matches online, but there also have been more matches being uploaded, so I don't know for sure. But I think it's going to take a certain level of skill to time your parry on wake up, unless like there's something very, very simple with it, and then like that's going to be kind of a must. But the thing is, when you do a wake up parry, unless the input, I'm assuming the input is forward to parry, right? Am I wrong on that, or is it a button?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're basically assuming that they're going to press a button. It's kind of like Tekken 7 parries or low parries, is that you have to press down forward in Tekken, but if you guess wrong, then you're getting blown up. Now I think you can only either wait and then press a button, or you can grab them, or I don't know if like the OD system, the drive system, has other counters for parries or something like that. So I think there'd be a lot of counterplay to that sort of thing. It's the same thing you saw happen with the V shift. I think it will be annoying for a certain, like, maybe gold to diamond area. That might be an issue where people don't have that muscle memory and they're fighting people higher than them. But I feel like once you get to like diamond and higher, then those people are, like, it's going to be part of the meta. And I think that's going to be really exciting to see, because you're going to walk up and press forward on me. Okay, well, I'm just going to wait a couple of frames because it's only active for so many frames. And then if you're walking forward, then I think I can just press a button and blow you up for that. So I think there'd be a lot of counterplay around that. So I'm not super concerned with that part of it, but I think that's a legitimate concern to be afraid of that, because it sounds like you're already experiencing the game, so you might come across people who, your peers, that can do that sort of thing, but then you just read it and then you punish them for it.
True. Yeah. There was also something else I saw. It was this was actually a CPU fighting a CPU. And what I saw was it was a Ryu versus a Ken. No, it was a Guile versus a Guile. And what looked like to me was somebody. So the Guile decides to hit the other one. That Guile parries it. He's about to attack the other one, and then that Guile parries again. It was like a weird counter drive move where like the second person is going to win that fight if he guesses right. Like always, it was a bit strange to me. I forgot what it was.
Yeah, if you can find it, I can probably pull it up.
Let me see.
So I'll just play this in the background while we chat.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to do a little bit of research myself on the systems. Like I've heard some of it, but I haven't. Like I don't think it'll click with me until I actually play the game myself, because I tend to not. It's not so much spoilers per se, but I think I've spent so long looking at games coming up that I think I just prefer to be surprised.
Yeah, exactly. And like I watched this on Kizzy K's channel, on his YouTube channel, and I was like, "Yo, did he just parry a parry like that?" That mess. This was whenever whenever he tucks in, and like he's about to do a move before it.
Yes, you can parry that if you read it. I don't exactly understand the mechanics, and I think you have to time it properly and have the resources. But yes, you can. It's like, I think of it as FADC almost from 4.
Mm-hmm.
So if you FADC someone else's FADC, you basically armor through it, the active frames, and then you get your turn, and they're still in recovery. So I don't think that's anything new per se. From like if I'm looking at it from a 4 standpoint, because it looks like the best of 4 and 5 and a little bit of or 3 Third Strike and 4 with a little bit of 5 in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah. I don't know.
Always burnt out or whatever it's called.
I don't know where the moment is.
Oh, what?
But it was in this fight. It was these two characters.
These are not bots. These are actually players. It looks like developers probably. I don't see any like high level combos happening or anything like that. I'm excited about the game though. I'm excited about it, but I'm also like, just because of personal reasons, I'm so busy. I'm like afraid I'm not going to get a chance to like really dig into it like I would like to be able to.
Yeah,
I'm excited for other people.
I'm excited about it too. I'm just. Part of me is like worried that like, okay, we're getting a lot of beautiful content, exactly what we've needed, the open world stuff, the CAC stuff, the accessibility to everything and to what we can do. Like that's amazing. But like at the end of the day, this is still a fighting game. So I feel like they need to be extremely careful, especially coming off of the reputation of Street Fighter V. Because if this, I just think they need to be extremely careful with the updates of the characters. Because especially Guile for me, Guile was a massive problem for me in Street Fighter V because of that one move that he just did. Yes, that flurry hurricane thing.
Yeah,
was annoying to me. The fact that like the gates, okay, now he's got mass projectiles and he's able to like increase the power of his sonic boom by throwing it out and then powering it up was a bit messed up. Like, okay, how am I gonna get into this dude if he's gonna just do keep away? His V trigger gives him basically key blast like he's a Dragon Ball character. I get close to him, he's going backflip the fuck out of me. I'm like,
and you played Ryu?
What? That I played Ryu, Kage, and Akuma.
Oh, you just parry them. And you're good to go. There you go.
That's the thing, though. As soon as I get on, I'm like, okay. Like, he forced me to get good with parrying on Ryu. I'm like, that's why I hate going against Giles in a Street Fighter V. And to see that he still has that, and even more, is a little bit disheartening to me. But I'll figure it out.
Yeah, I felt like my character was a hard counter to Guile. I played Fong, and I can just go under his projectiles a lot of times. So I never really had a big issue with playing against Giles, but I can see playing Ryu, you don't really have the shenanigans to deal with getting under it. So you either have to parry or play very patient unless you have an aggressive Guile. And those are usually DR players, and they're usually really good. So it's a tough call.
The aggressive Giles are scary. They're terrifying.
Yeah.
I have a friend. He got extremely good at Street Fighter V, and he played Guile. He played a lot of characters I didn't expect. He played Guile. He played Yuri, Bison. Yeah, he played a lot of those characters, but his Guile was terrifying. And like, I wanted to learn. I wanted to, as soon as the thing I hate about it is as soon as I would like figure something out, he would switch characters. And I'm like, okay, now I gotta like relearn everything, drop what I just learned. And try to figure this rhythm out. But I hope Ryu gets a lot more access to stuff than what he's had, because he's been very stubby as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I've heard that complaint from a lot of people, and it wasn't until season 5 that he really came online. So he kind of was towards the tail end of the game, and he wasn't super relevant until then. You had to be like an extra try hard to get good or to do well with Ryu in tournament or online.
Yes, you had to be a master with the parry. If you weren't,
you had other Shotos that were kind of better if you didn't.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with Kage and Akuma, the teleports, the dive kicks, the flips, all that stuff. Yeah.
Sakura.
Oh yeah, most definitely Sakura.
She was pretty strong, or she is pretty strong still, I think.
Yeah, she's still a monster.
So you alluded to some of this earlier, but I wanted to circle back and hit on this because you talked about in the DMs, you talked about why people leave fighting games and why they hate them. So I wanted to get your take on that one. Like, what do you think about that topic? Like, why do you think that happened?
So in terms of experience I've had with people quitting or wanting to come back into fighting games, funny story, I didn't even know about Dragon Ball Fighters for a while until my friend said, "Yo, this is this new game coming out made by the same people that made Guilty Gear XR Rev 2, which is the game that I started on. That really got me into competitive fighting game." And he introduced me to the game, and I was like, "Okay, this is pretty cool." So here we are, starting at the same level. And I started getting a little bit better, by playing him. And because of that, he decides to quit. So I think, like I said before, people have grown impatient in terms of learning how to do fighting games. Just like, in the words of Maximilian, we've gotten extremely spoiled. And I think people just, they always ask me this question, like, how do I get good at fighting games? How do I get good at fighting games? And they want like the quick solution to everything. Like, stuff has gotten so fast that people just wanted to have it like right then and there. But people don't want to go through that learning process, and I think that's what annoys me the most when people complain about this character sucks or this character is bad, or why is your character so much better? I'm like, if you And I tell them all the time, if you sit down and learn the character, you wouldn't have as much of a problem. I've seen people who would complain using Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta in Dragon Ball FighterZ, losing to a Super Saiyan Goku and saying this character is bad. I'm like, are you kidding me? What do you mean this character is bad? And I'm like, people just, I think it's just a giant hurdle.
Yeah.
I think it's just I think people have this, people play video games to have fun. And I think, learning is not the fun part for a lot of people, especially ones who are starting out and
putting in that time.
Yeah, exactly. Putting in that time to like actually figuring out what to do in certain situations. Yeah. And that's the part that like it's frustrating, but at the same time I can't really be mad at them because I went through the same thing. Small story. I used to play this game called Naruto Clash of the Ninja 2 on a GameCube. And I only played against computers all the time, and so me, I'm always how it is. You're all gonna win. You're always gonna set it to where you're gonna win every single match all the time. And my mom was dating my stepdad at the time, and he came over, and we played the game together. And this is the funny thing is, this is the first person I ever lost to in a fighting game. He beat me by using only one move, and he was using and before he could win, I unplugged the system from the TV. And I was getting mad at him because like, you can't just use that one move, you can't just do it. And he was like, what? I'm just playing the game. And I think that right there taught me, like, stay with it. There's always a bunch of cheap shit. But again, off topic. Yeah. But yeah, people just don't want to go through the long learning process. Take Tekken 7 for example. Massive amount of stuff to learn with the character. People don't feel like sitting through that, and that's why it has a massive dedicated fan base. But because of legacy skill, they've already gone through the older games of Tekken, the ones that didn't have as much information as Tekken 7, so they know stuff from the older games, and they're just adding stuff on into their book that's that's new to them, which is not a lot. Yeah. So yeah, it's just the learning process that people can't get past.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's a multi-pronged issue. So to go back to what you're talking about with the characters, nowadays I don't even entertain like tier lists or like character complaints. Like my response to people who complain about characters is, are you the best player with that? Are you the best person with that character? Are you like one of the top players in the world? Then there's room for improvement. So stop complaining about it. Like I don't entertain that logic anymore. I don't get into tier lists because it's irrelevant to most people. Like unless you're going to use it as like, here's how you have to play around this. You're just talking about pro players and who they're probably going to pick. Like it's just not relevant to me. So that's how I settle that specific issue. Because unless I say like I played Fong in Street Fighter 5, and the way I compared Fong to a lot of people was like being black. It's like I'm born with a disadvantage, and that's just the way it is. But if I want what I want, if I want to get what I want, then I got to work around those disadvantages and use my strengths as much as possible. Exactly. And that's exactly how I play low tier characters. It's like, okay, well, I need to know your character as well as you know your character. I need to know my character better than you know my character, and I need to be able to anticipate. But like until I'm the best person with that character, there's always going to be room for improvement. What are they doing? How are people beating them? Yada yada yada. But then you get into something that I didn't really recognize until I got into Rocket League. So traditionally Rocket League is a 3v3 game. But there's 3 different ranked modes. There's 3v3, 2v2, and 1v1. And I noticed that a certain kind of personality type that I feel like had the same issue with quitting fighting games also avoided 1v1s like the plague. And to use a basketball term, I think a lot of people have an issue with being exposed. And in fighting games, there's no teammate to blame. There's no bunch of factors to blame other than you lost to your opponent. And you can make excuses from there, whether it be your character or play style, stuff like that. So I do think that's a huge part of it, where people just don't like being exposed. And then the last part that you talked about, which is like the practice part of it, you made me think about this, is that in fighting games, I feel like most of us appreciate the newer training tools that we're getting. Like hardcore fighters appreciate any kind of training tools that we get. But we have a certain level of patience that most other gamers don't need to have. Like, think about most shooters. There are training tools for working on your aim and stuff like that, but most of them just hop into games and they play and they get better that way. But you also have your teammates to blame. So I feel like fighting games and like any 1v1 game has this unique point of view where you get exposed, but also the training process for fighting games specifically can be very, very daunting. Even Rocket League has like tons, especially if you're on PC, there's a lot of training packs that you can do that gamify learning specific skills. Where in Street Fighter, if I want to work on my hit confirms, I have to create that scenario myself. There's no mini game for me to work on my hit confirms that give me any kind of feedback or any kind of score. There's nothing for working on my combos other than combo trials that are already pre-made. I can't build my own combos for the most part and then like do that. Like you can to some games, but it's not super common. So I think the lack of gamification with the training tools is also a huge issue when it comes to fighting games. Like if I'm being objective, I think that is it. But I do find myself like you, sometimes getting frustrated by people who are like, I want to get better at the game, I want to win, but then complaining at every corner about like every situation or making excuses. It is quite conflicting.
Yeah, I have a friend that plays fighting games on the stream, and he told me he has this one rule where he'll play a character one time every single match, and this is where I'm getting frustrated to the idea of auto combos. That is another big gripe. I feel like Dragon Ball FighterZ is a good game. I think that's where the notion of auto combos originated the most, and it did open doors for a lot of players to come in. But I feel like now we're just, because people are complaining so much that they can't figure out how to play these games. I feel like now is babying them. And I feel like that's okay to an extent, because the way auto combos work in Dragon Ball FighterZ is, even if you're behind that character, they're just going to turn the other way like it's a Smash Bros. Game. I feel like babying a player too much to that extent is very dangerous to the other side of fighting game, whereas the competitive people, the people who try to like make the tier list and stuff, like you said, because what's the point of learning if this is so good and is able to catch you off guard every single time? Like, you don't have to turn around or nothing. You just press one button and that's it. Yeah. And like, granted, it did what they wanted. It got people into more fighting games. But if you look at us, we're looking at them like, they ain't learning nothing.
They can develop some bad habits.
Yeah, some massive bad habits, and then they get up to the high tier echelon with those auto combos. Now they're getting blasted for it. They're getting blown up because they're so used to it, and they're getting blown up for it. Now they're going to quit the game because they don't know what else to do. They don't feel like going to the training modes and how to do actual combos, actual extensions, actual strings. They're going to quit right there because they're so used to just pressing a button at every turn that now it's frustrating. This character sucks, or they go to another character because they think the character sucks. The auto combo's not good. This game sucks. They stop playing the game. It's a double-edged sword to me.
Yeah, I feel like gameplay mechanics shouldn't encourage bad habits on its own, and I'm on the fence because I feel like I learned the auto combo system in terms of its utility and not as something to rely on. I'm not great at Dragon Ball FighterZ, but I have friends that are good at it, and like that's one of the things that we learned early on. But if you don't have any friends that play the game, or you don't follow any online resources, just like the in-game resources, how would you know how to properly utilize the auto combo system, especially if this is your first fighting game, let alone like your first tag fighter? You don't really have that kind of legacy knowledge to rely on. So that's one of those instances where the mechanics by themselves aren't bad, but because there's a lack of training tools, that becomes sort of a encouraging a bad habit. Because I'm all for making games simpler so that more people can get into it, as long as you keep the skill ceiling very high. I think that's a good thing to be able to do. Like Melee's a weird example, but I'm going to use that one because it's a party game and it's very simple at its core. But because of a lot of circumstances, the game has a lot of depth. And so anybody can kind of get into that game less so now, and competitively less so now. But there's a lot of room for improvement, for strategy, and for players who are already experienced to be rewarded for their experience. But then you have something like an auto combo where Bardock can just go swinging at you and whack you upside the head. It is kind of a weird, as a partial Bardock player myself, like that is a little bit busted. So it's not hard. It's not easy to make a fighting game. That's one of the fighting games is one of the genres I worked on when I was an animator. And so I got to see how much work goes into making a fighting game. So I always have respect, despite the fact that I may not like a fighting game, how much work it takes to make one. That I don't think a lot of other people give that grace to developers. So I'll say that I don't like a game. I don't ever get mad that I don't like a game. I don't know. I'm an adult. I don't rage like that. I'm not sure. But I do agree with you in that sense where like that can cause an issue. And I do think that's something that developers have to keep in mind. I'm sure they do, but I think that without babying, because I also think that's a good point too, like babying people, making things simple. Personally, I'm against that, but when it comes to getting more people to play the game, I also recognize that most people aren't resilient enough to deal with that kind of loss on a repetitive basis until they get better. So it's a really hard spot when you're trying to like ultimately hit a bottom line. You're trying to hit something financially. How do you find that middle ground of, hey, here's a game that's approachable and simple, but has a lot of depth, so that the legacy players, the hardcore players, keep the competitive scene alive. It's not really an easy thing, and Dragon Ball FighterZ is a very in today's era, Dragon Ball FighterZ having that sort of mechanic is a little hard to like really process for a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely a weird situation because the FGC is definitely still, though people say it's massive compared to the other genre areas, especially the shooter category, we're very, very small.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think the main priority is to keep people into our games.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess auto combos is the answer to that, especially because it's in Dragon Ball FighterZ. It's somewhat in Stripe, not as much as it was before in Rev 2. It's in Grand Blue Fantasy. It's in Cross Tag. It's in what else? It's in
I think it's kind of in Tekken, but yeah. I don't know if it's tournament legal though.
Well, I think the biggest thing with Tekken is the one button specials.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing with Tekken. In terms of my experience playing it with my roommate, we're usually being in the small menu that comes up on the left side of the screen, asking which one you want to press.
Yeah, that thing.
Yeah, there's that, and then now we got DNF Duel, which is it's not auto combo, but it's just 4 button press, like we're going back to the Dragon. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
1 button. Down special. It's like Smash Bros. In terms of down Bs, 4 Bs, and stuff like that.
Yeah, which I love DNF Duel for its simplicity, but also its wackiness. It's over the top. From a UMVC3 player, a Marvel player, I just love the wackiness of it. But that game has made people fume. Like people get really angry at that game.
That's the weird thing, though. I think DNF Duel actually did it right. In terms of getting people in, like new players in, it's not too complex, but it's not too easy.
Yeah,
because going back to Dragon Ball FighterZ, you just press 1 button, bam, you got it. But like in a DNF Duel, I always compare DNF Duel to the old Dragon Ball Z Budokai games. Back when you had like PK and forward E stuff like that, forward K and stuff like that.
Okay.
I think that's what really drew me in, because it was, I felt like it was paying homage indirectly to that type of fighting style, where it was back in the PS2 days, and I think that's what really pulled me in. Now I think the problem that everybody has is definitely lies with Berserk, Swiftmaster, and
Hitman,
Ghostblade, and who else?
Hitman was a problem before they nerfed him.
Hitman, yeah, before they nerfed him, but Berserk is definitely at the top of the echelon with the problem that everybody's having.
Yeah.
And it goes down to the same thing I've been saying. People don't want to learn how to, fight that stuff off. People don't want to learn the mechanics of the game. People just want to shoot, for lack of a better term, because of shooters. You aim, you shoot, bam. That's how you get the kill. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people don't realize you can't take that mindset even over to this genre. It's a lot more complex than that.
Yeah, it's true. And I do see a lot of people, they're very gung-ho about complaining about things before they've really put forth the effort to get around these issues. And it's annoying. It's really annoying to see it, honestly, like people just complaining about things. I think everyone has a right to their opinion of how a game is. But I think once you start getting to the point where you're complaining and yelling and demanding changes of developers, like that's when you lose me. When it's like, okay, no, you don't like it, that's fine. But then you're saying that you're not winning because of A, B, and C when you haven't even put in enough time. I don't really buy that. I'm sorry. But to go to my last topic, I wanted to pick your brain on this one in terms of Project L. Where is that on your radar, and like what do you think about it?
I'll be honest, that one's flying very low, very off radar. I would say that because I haven't really heard much about it. With Street Fighter 6 coming out, the beta with crossplay and rollback on beta is coming out. Dragon Ball FighterZ is getting rollback. Now we hear Guilty Gear Rev 2 and Rev 1 are getting rollback. It's a lot of stuff is at the forefront of Project L, so you're not really seeing much publicity about it because these games are coming back that are old ones are coming back to take over.
Yeah.
So, but what I've seen in terms of footage, the older footage that we've seen back when before The End of the Door was released, I'm definitely excited about it. Part of me feels like it's giving off a lot of Grand Blue Fantasy mechanic vibe. To be honest with you, I feel like that it's going to be the normal. You can either press R1 forward to do the special or do the actual input. It's giving me a lot of Grand Blue vibes.
That makes sense. Yeah, I can see that. I would, of course, say that I'm excited for it, but in terms of what it means for the FGC, I see it being something very big that can give a huge boon in attention to the FGC from non-fighting game players.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Purely speculation at this point. I won't go into the huge ramble, but one, I think that you're going to have a lot of people who this is their first fighting game that they're going to get into. And then they're going to get brought into the fold of the FGC. So it could be just a big spike in fighting games in general, like an interest, and then it dips off, like kind of just goes back to where it was before. Or you could see like a steadier, like normal high just all time if Project L is actually a good game. Because the thing with I talk about League of Legends because they have kind of set a trend, or are one of the trendsetters in terms of esports, in terms of competitive games that are also just popular for the casual player who doesn't compete but plays the game a lot. It could be one of those games, and the thing is that there's also the fact that the Cannon brothers are working on it. It's going to have good netcode. It's a tag fighter. They have a huge roster. If they want to do anything with story mode, they have a lot of rich story already existing that they don't have to already write. Plus, the big thing, the tinfoil hat thing for me, is that the way they're doing the netcode, I think Maximilian Dude also says this, is that it could be a 2-player versus 2-player game. And I hope that is true, and I hope that is the tournament standard, because just objectively speaking, after working in esports since 2018, multiplayer, I don't think it's just the fact that fighting games are less popular. I think it's the fact that team games are more popular for a multitude of reasons. You have more people to look for, like to cheer for. You have more dynamics, more once in a lifetime moments, because the more players in a game, the more once in a lifetime situations are going to happen. So I think that would be great for fighting games, and I think it would set it apart from other fighting games, because I don't think you can really ever replace a fighting game. Like Tekken's never going to replace Street Fighter 5 or Street Fighter. Like that's just not going to happen because they're two different styles of fighting game. They're like almost two different genres in the same genre.
Exactly.
So I don't think that it would ever harm any of the other fighting games, but I hope that it would help it to grow and like get more people into Street Fighter, get more people into Guilty Gear, get more people into older fighting games that are starting to get better netcode now. So I think and I hope that this game gives a huge boon to the fighting game community, and that the fighting game community actually supports it and doesn't like get controversial about it or anything, because that's kind of what the FGC does.
True.
So,
yeah, we do like to start some theories, man.
We do.
But I will say this, it has a lot to live up to based on what's coming out now. And I think they really need to take a look at what's happening with DNF Duel because they're on the verge of completely falling out. If this update that they're talking about, this big update, isn't something that's like actually big as they say, it could be a very big downfall for them.
Yeah, this is the make or break situation for them. And I love DNF Duel, but I mean, objectively speaking, they gotta bring something good. Otherwise, they're just done. It's gonna die. It's gonna stay basically dead because I can't even find ranked matches nowadays.
Yeah, because everybody's in a lobby system. That's why.
Yep, you're right.
But I think that's another thing. I think lobby systems need to be okay, so lobby systems open up a lot of ideas in terms of like doing online tournaments, but at the same time, I don't know. I'm very iffy on that area because I've done a couple of my own tournaments with a couple of my dudes because of the lobby system in Guilty Gear Strive, thankfully. But yeah, I don't think that each one should stand side by side, lobby system and then normal rank mode 1v1.
What do you mean?
Well, I just feel like one of them is not going to get attention from the other. So you're going to have the people that like lobby systems way more. You're going to have the people that like doing the 1v1s a lot more.
Yeah.
And I think with DNF Duel, or I think as the fighting game genre in general, people like doing the 1v1s a lot more than they do lobbies because I say that because Guilty Gear Strive got a massive flack because of the lobby system, and that there was no 1v1 type of you just press rank match and bam, you're in. But that's just how I feel because I mean Street Fighter V did it right. They actually had a lot more luck with doing the lobby system.
Excellent. Yeah, well, hopefully we get to have more conversations like this. Maybe when more updates come out from Street Fighter or Tekken or something like that, we can have more conversations. I look forward to it. I'm also trying to just get back into this. My work situation is a little crazy and hectic right now, but I'm hoping it's been slowing down and getting more steady and more used to it. So I hope to continue to pump out more content, get more guests on the show again. So stay tuned for that. But everyone listening, thank you guys so much. Make sure you check out him on social media, on Twitch as well when you start to stream as well. And also me, I'm streaming on Twitch and YouTube, a lot of Cyberpunk 2077 stuff right now. But also Twitter is the best way to get with me, at The Philosopher on Twitter, basically everything. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you all in the next one.